Good evening, everybody. Now we're back at it. We got the first floor up, which was the biggest hurdle of this whole project. Well, besides money and all that good stuff, but don't we all have that problem? But tonight we're working on buttoning some things up. I'm setting some floor joists. I'm going to cut some wedges, get those put in. I know you guys want to see the wedge cutting, but I just do it on the bandsaw inside my shop, and I really don't want to take you guys into no man's land anymore. It's just a dark, dingy hole in the ground. But so we're going to cut some wedges, set some floor joists. We also we're going to start coming up with a plan for the second floor, a game plan here. I've got a bunch of logs. I've got 9 more logs here right now to mill, and then after that we got to go cut some more timber, but I'm going to take you guys along for that. But enjoy the show. Hope you guys like what you see. I'm going to be setting the floor joist by hand tonight. I know it's kind of a stupid thing when I've got a tractor and hydraulics right there, but they've dried out quite a bit, so they're a lot lighter than they were when I first brought them home, and the first 14 or 15 I set by hand. But so they're not as bad as they look. They're 5x8s, 12 feet long by the time I cut them down, get them set. So we should be good with that. But I could just do it so much faster by hand if they're light enough to pick. So stay tuned, we're going to keep going. Alright, I'm making my wedges out of elm, and the reason I'm doing that, I have it on hand, it's fairly dry, and I'm running pretty low on white ash. I've got a lot of pegs left, and white ash is the most suitable material that I have in my possession at the time. So I'm going to cut some 4 1/4 inch wide strips out of this. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take them into the bandsaw in the shop. We're going to trim them down to where they have to be. I want to drive those in. Now I've already got that joint tight. I drove a temporary wedge in it, and then I timber locked the piss out of it, so it's not going anywhere. But alright, there's nothing fancy in the way I do this. All I'm doing, we're going to make them 12 inches long. A lot of people go a lot longer than that, but I only have to drive them in through 10-inch wide material, but I do want a little bit sticking out from each end so that I can trim them up, make them look good. But we'll trim these off, and I'll show you how we go about doing the rest of it. Alright, so I'd like to get my 2 sides together. Now this is right off the band mill. We haven't done any planing, we haven't done any of that on this. I like to make sure when I go to put these together that they're nice and tight, or that they're, you know, I don't have any waves in them. Because when you get the waves in them, they're not going to engage the entire width of that tie beam that you're driving them into for that scarf joint. And in order to get the strength out of these that you need, it has to fully engage that joint. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clamp these together, and then I'm real scientific about it, guys. I just take my square and I'll show you. Easier to show you than explain it. We're going to take our turkey call clamp here, and you don't have to get real anal about these things, just get them together so they're tight. And then maybe we'll go in the middle. And there we go. Measure over 2.5 up here. I'm going to go 2.5 down here. Well, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll go 2 5/8 on each side. I forget we made these a little longer. Now these wedges may be too steep of an angle for some people to like, but like I said, guys, I'm just doing what works for me. Not everything's textbook here in this build. Oop. So all we're going to do, I'm going to go to that point over there, all the way down here, and I'm just going to make my line there. If I can do it without moving the damn square. We're going to do the same thing over here. Now, I'm going to X off my waist so I don't grab the wrong piece. I'm going to go in and cut this and we'll be right back. We're going to slide this in so you guys can see it. Come to the other side, pound that in some more. Almost there. Okay. I don't think those are going to go anywhere, but you never know. Alright, let's take you guys up for a close-up, see if we can give you some shaky hands. But that's what it looks like with the wedges in it. Obviously, when I cut this, I must have got off a little bit, but that's a pretty good tight fit. And as you can see, that's where the two wedges meet. Those are nice and tight, and that's what you want. Those got to be good and tight. I did plane those surfaces because I figure the rough surfaces will help engage each other and keep this thing from falling out. We've got to cut one of our floor joists with a reduction in it. And what the reduction is for is in the middle, the smack dab in the middle of the barn, all the way down through every single bent. There's one of these floor joists sits right over top of the tie beam wedges. So I couldn't really do a full depth joist pocket on those tie beams in that particular location. So I brought it down as close as I could to still leave some structural integrity. So I'm coming down 5 inches. We're going to square it off to the end. But then at that 5-inch mark down, I'm going to measure back 8 inches and we're going to cut an angle there. Reason for that angle, I mentioned it before in another video quite a while back, but the biggest reason for that angle is if I were to just cut this square, if I just squared that off right there, this point where the corner of that square, that would be a weak point because you're going to have such a tight cut with the grain there, that'd be a potential for splitting out. So what we got to do in any reduction you do, if you take a look at take a look at a lot of timber frames where they've had to reduce going into housings and whatnot, and I think that's the standard practice. I didn't really do that here, but anyhow, I digress. You're going to see where that's an angled cut. So it's not just a right angle. And like I said, that is for strength of the timber itself. Because you get it right there and that's just a weak spot. If you angle it back, it gives you a wider growth ring, wider grain across there. It's not as likely to tear out. In case anybody's curious as to why we are doing that. Well, you can actually see that tonight. Wait for the ass bag with no muffler to get by. So that's what it's going to look like when you guys go to cut that. So you cut straight into there, and you come from this end, you make your cut up that way, you finish it off with a handsaw. That's all there is to it. It's really not that bad. We might be a little grainy here. I'm kind of out of the work lights a little bit, so I don't look like I got a light shining in my face the whole time. But oh, there we go. There's pretty much the last of the floor joists, except for right above my head here. The stairwell's going to go against that on this gable end towards the road here. And then we're going to have some short joists running across. I've got to figure out. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to do it. So that's going to get framed up last anyway, because I don't want to be working up there and have my kids climbing around up there with no walls or anything on. But anyhow, we set 9 floor joists tonight by hand. We showed you how to cut a reduction. We showed you how to put the wedges in the tie beams. I think we had a good night, guys. So we're going to wrap it up here for tonight. I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. The next one coming down the line, we're going to start milling logs again. I want to get this stuff done tonight so I can focus pretty much primarily on milling. We've got 9 logs here to mill up. We're going to try to get as many timbers out of those as we can. And then, like I said earlier, we're going to be headed back to the woods, and you guys can watch me cut some trees down. So you guys have a good evening. I will catch you on the next one.